There's just so much.
You're listening to a Mamamia podcast.
Mamamia acknowledges the traditional owners of the land we have recorded this podcast on, the Gadigal people of the Eora Nation. We pay our respects to their elders, past and present, and extend that respect to all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander cultures.
Hello and welcome to Cancelled, a podcast that has been criticised recently for its slut talk. Jessie,
Yeah, what's that about?
what do you think PJ is referring to? He specifically said gossip toxic slut talk.
I think the slut talk is referring to the fact we're two females.
Okay, does that mean that when we talk it's slutty because of the nature of our genitals?
Yeah, so it did come after the Kim Kardashian episodes. How does one talk slutty?
I don't know, but I embrace it. But then my favourite was he signed off by saying, enjoy failing. And I was like, thanks.
We will. What were the 4 words again? In what order?
Gossip,
Yep.
toxic,
Yes.
slut talk. Yep.
Gossip, toxic slut talk. That's our new tagline for Cancelled.
Yeah. I'm Claire Stevens and I'm joined by...
Toxic gossip slut, Jessie Stevens.
Lovely. And today on the show, we're talking about 50 Shades of Grey.
I'm incapable of leaving you alone.
Then don't.
I had a rough start in life. You should steer clear of me. I don't do romance. My tastes are very singular. You wouldn't understand.
Mostly the films, but also the books, when my personal interests take me that way.
Yeah, the parameter should probably be either film or book or specific. No.
As
this
a franchise.
is about a vibe.
And the vibe sometimes crosses over.
Yeah.
The 2015 film, 50 Shades of Grey, is based on the 2011 book of the same name by E.L. James. It was originally self-published as an ebook. It was developed from a Twilight fan fiction series that was originally called Master of the Universe and published under E.L. James's pen name. And I know what you're thinking.
Isn't E.L. James a pen name?
No, that's her actual name. It's Erica. Anyway, her pen name was Snow Queen's Ice Dragon.
I like her.
That's why I like the
So
internet.
she self-published it. Then I assume a publisher picked it up.
Yeah, you know who was the first to jump on it?
Who?
A weird Australian publisher. Australia. They were the ones who went, something in this. So originally the characters' names were Edward and Bella, but after
It's a bit derivative, isn't it?
after a bunch of comments about it being really sexual, James removed it from where that fan fiction was happening, published it onto her own website, changed the names. And in the UK, it is the fastest selling paperback of all time. Jessie, that surprises me, given a little-known book named Harry Potter. Did you know that after the book's release, sex toy injuries increased dramatically?
I would assume. I think I was among them.
Okay. Jessie, what part of 50 Shades of Grey do you think about a lot?
Goodness, I'm hungry for sex.
Yeah, no, I think it's I'm hungry but not for food. I think you've got that a bit mixed up.
But not for food. And then it was the
The implication was hungry for
also,
cock.
Yes, there was also the presentation of what were clearly vagina balls and her saying, "Did they go in my butt?" And everyone going, "There's an easier hole. Why did she jump to butt?"
No, you're not putting those in my butt.
They don't go in your butt.
I remember that. I remember the helicopter crash.
Yeah.
I remember, I think a child came along. I was done by the child coming along. I'd really given up. There was her having an issue at work and him buying the company.
Yeah.
They're some of my favourite 50 Shades plot twists.
Thank you. I think a lot about how she was always talking about her inner goddess.
Somersaulting and doing the salsa. Doing a salsa?
And how I don't have an inner goddess. It was always her subconscious and her inner goddess.
Yeah.
Here's my structure for today. A recap of the first film in order to enter the vibe. Because here's what we do. We go really detailed on the beginning and then tapers off in terms of interest and importance.
We did discuss last week. We said we're going to do 50 Shades of Grey. We'll have to watch all the films. It got to nearly today and we went, we'll have to watch one of the films. I watched 3/4 of the first film. I just kind of skipped to the end to get the vibe. Oh, don't get us wrong. We've seen all the films in the cinema. But we couldn't be going back and spending our whole week doing that.
No.
I mean, no.
There's things going on in the world. Secondly, most ridiculous plot lines. Bad writing. E.L. James's Q&A, gone very, very wrong. Toxic relationships. Let us count the ways. Vag beads and behind-the-scenes goss.
Mr. Gray will see you now.
Let's start with the recap.
Yeah.
As soon as the film begins, okay,
I
what?
need to enter something into evidence before we jump into this, actually. And it's regarding a holiday you and I took in 2012. Do you remember that holiday?
Yes.
All right. I need our listeners to know we've actually read all the books.
We have.
Actually, no, I stopped when the baby was born. But I remember getting the books at airports all throughout Europe, maybe, on one of our first trips. And we would go, oh, this is so bad. Inner goddess, misuse of the term subconscious, blah, blah, blah. And then we would snatch the book from one another's grasp and we would discuss it. But we couldn't stop reading, but it was really, really bad. I need us to remember that.
You didn't want to also enter into evidence that then we were flying to Dubai and realised I don't think we could actually take me into that country.
I think it was illegal.
I think it was illegal.
Yes, I remember the flight attendant being like, you can't walk around with that cover on show. It's a weird moment.
How embarrassing.
And offensive.
Really
I was like,
bad.
no, this should be illegal everywhere. Dubai has the right idea.
Let's recap the film. All right. As soon as the film begins, I remember that Jamie Dornan is hotter as a serial killer in The Fall than Christian Grey in 50 Shades, and that still confuses me.
Comment. It does not look like he has enough lip to smile.
No.
He can't quite smile in it, and it is because of a profound lack of chemistry with Dakota Johnson.
Yes.
They appear to hate each other.
He's actually too Irish for this role.
He is not a CEO vibe,
No.
which really brings down the film. Just in terms of notes, Fringe, discuss.
You beat me to it because my next line was Dakota Johnson's Fringe is terrible and she looks like an unhinged farmer.
She does. Why,
too
if a
short.
character is awkward, must we
Have a crooked fringe.
have a crooked fringe? Come now. The woman deserves a straight fringe. She can be awkward in other ways. She also appears like every time she's walking, doesn't know where she's going.
No.
Oh, I'm in my own hardware store. I don't know.
She's always gasping.
Yeah.
We begin with Anastasia's roommate and best friend Kate being sick. So Anastasia has to go and do an interview for the college paper with a successful businessman named Christian Grey.
Who does? No, go on.
Okay.
Tell me what Christian Grey does for a living.
The business enterprise is called Grey House. Sometimes, but Grey Enterprises other times. And it involves meetings and suits. And it is the telecommunications sector, but also invest in agricultural projects. Okay.
There's a phone call we overhear where he says, we don't have 24 hours. And that's all I know about what he does.
He has a helicopter.
We will get to that because what I will say, in case you're wondering, I have 2 words written under this film. Climate, criminal. We need to discuss the carbon emissions.
But he's saving people in Africa from starving because that's close to his heart.
No.
Yeah.
No.
It's in his speech at the graduation.
That's fine, but there's a part where like him and Anastasia are seeing each other and he goes and picks her up in a helicopter. She's giggling like a maniac. And I'm like, the carbon emissions from your trip to Seattle, get the train. They fly around a field for fun.
Yeah.
Do you know that is one of the worst things you can do? The planet's burning.
And it's not romance when we just have a helicopter/plane hobby and then we just take people along for the ride. Really important to note, he's 27 years old. How does he have this business? Jessie, it's a tower. It's not a floor on a tower, it's a tower.
Which is why you and I had a theory all throughout the books that he was a drug dealer. And it was a drug front. And that makes a lot more sense.
When Anastasia enters Mr. Grey's office, she opens the door and falls over. We shouldn't be falling over on flat surfaces when we open doors.
No, I've had a very falling over year and
Yeah.
I've just been to the doctor to go, we should address this.
Yeah.
Just because I'm a woman doesn't mean I should be falling over my own feet.
No, it's not.
It's down, you could hit your head.
It's not right. He gives her all these ridiculous answers to her questions, like, I exercise control in all areas of my life. And it's like, okay, do you mean with your dick? When she gets outside, she stands in the rain
And has an orgasm.
to cool off from the heat of him, which, most relatable bit, because Jamie Dornan, he's got it.
Yeah, but he loses all X Factor as Christian Grey.
Not all, most.
All right.
What was he like? He was polite, intense, smart, really intimidating.
Anna works at a hardware store and he turns up out of the blue. He wants cable ties. she's like, are you redecorating? Who has cable ties for redecorating, Anna?
Who walks into a shop, corners a shop assistant, and then shadows them as they get your things?
Yeah. I need masking tape. Well, there's an aisle.
See the aisle that there's masking tape? Couldn't walk into Woolworths and go, hi, I need bleach.
I want to wait at the end of an aisle, corner someone, and then just follow them around while I tell them what I want. A few scenes later, she almost gets hit by a bike on the street, and it's like, are you capable of existing?
Yeah.
Because at this point, it's a lot of accidents. Christian Grey says something to her about how he can't do this, so she goes out with Kate. Kate is applying lip gloss for Anastasia. Just that's not something women do for each other.
No.
You've done my eye makeup before?
Absolutely. Maybe someone could give you help with the shape of an eyebrow. Lip gloss? I don't need a mirror.
We don't need to do each other's lip gloss. That's not right.
Her being drunk is one of the greatest.
It's the worst acting I've ever. She's like, on the phone. Like, oh my gosh, it's so embarrassing. And then he's like, have you been drinking? And he's mad. Jose tries to kiss Anna because
we need to talk about Jose.
Obviously, E.L. James has written this story as her own personal fantasy about everyone in the world being in love with her. At this point, there is not a man who isn't in love with Anna.
There's even Paul from the handyman shop.
Every single man she interacts with is crazy in love with her. So Jose tries to kiss Anna, but thank God Christian emerges from the shadows and he's like, dude, she said no. And it's like, where did you come from and how did you
let's give
find
some
her?
context about Jose because he is her very good friend. He is a man of colour. He's also an artist who she seems to really like. And Christian Grey hates him for no reason. He just gets completely marginalised.
It's very antisocial. So then Anna wakes up in Christian's hotel room and he's like, if you were mine, you wouldn't be able to sit down for a week. And so what?
He buys her a new outfit because she vomited on her outfit and it is every man trying to buy his girlfriend an outfit.
It's got flowers on it.
Yeah.
And
women like flowers.
ugh. I forgot about Laters Baby. I forgot about that.
Yeah.
When he's like, Laters Baby. And some people used to have it in like their Facebook or something. And people used to like come and be like, Laters Baby. And I'm like, we are not modelling off a very nice relationship.
How about when she jokes that she's ending it and then she's doing her laundry and she turns around in her bedroom and he's in her doorway?
That's a
And
moment.
it's like, how did you get in?
Yes.
And he keeps giving her electronic devices that actually track her whereabouts at all time. Like a laptop, a phone,
a car. I don't know how Jamie Dornan delivered this line.
I don't make love. I fuck. Hard.
That makes me feel sick.
How do you do that without laughing? That is Academy Award winning acting.
Poor guy.
Then there's the playroom scene.
What is?
My playroom.
Like your Xbox and stuff?
And she's like, does it have an Xbox?
And that's annoying because no, it doesn't, Anna. And my first thought would be swing set. And then he takes her to the room that would be her room and he's like, you can decorate it however you like, which she's not a child, even though all her mannerisms are that of a child. He finds out that she's a virgin and he's like, men must throw themselves at you.
And she doesn't say no, they don't. I know that it's like women should own their own power or whatever, but I'm like, you fringe.
Jessie. But it is funny because what E.L. James has done here is just written her fantasy and I respect it. More women should just be like, I'm not claiming this to be literary fiction. This is my sexual fantasy that lives in the depths of my
things don't need to be
said out loud.
We don't need to say everything out loud. I don't like the part where he plaits her hair.
I don't like that he knows how to plait her hair.
Yeah.
Then he introduces Anastasia to the whole contract thing, and I don't like that she has to eat from a prescribed list of food.
Yeah, he wants her to eat steak to keep up her stamina or something.
She's thinking about the contract, and as you said, he turns up in her house. It's very creepy, but one of the iconic moments for me is when she decides, she's like, well, if this is a contract, I want a business meeting. And she goes into the office in like heels and a dress, and it's like, you are negotiating the use of butt plugs. Like, don't pretend this is professional. He says they can go on a date once a week and do something like ice skating, and that is his worst idea so far, in my opinion. They do a little bit of BDSM, and I don't like thinking about how awkward it would have been to film. I don't like thinking about it.
that a lot.
I would kill to see behind-the-scenes footage of what that looked like to film.
Especially given they didn't like each other.
Yeah.
And it does end, the film ends with her naked and crying in the playroom.
Because he spanked her.
Cliffhanger though.
She goes down in the lift, which in the book E.L. James describes as going at terminal velocity. No, incorrect. I see how you had that observation. Needed to be edited. That's not true.
Instinct, yeah.
Let's get into most ridiculous plot lines because that's a recap of 50 Shades, the first one. But we do have some really insane plot lines in 50 Shades Darker and 50 Shades Freed that we're just quickly going to need to tick off.
All right. Did you have on your list the helicopter crash in 50 Shades Darker?
Yes, and the fact that he's fine.
Yes. And what I remember being concerned about is that it was classic. Guy thinks he's okay, but actually has a concussion and his brain is bleeding and then he wakes up dead.
Yes.
But
Also,
he looked like he'd walked under a tree, got hit by a branch. That was the extent of his injury.
It was also sabotage. And the sabotage was from Jack Hyde. And Jack
forgot about this.
was the guy who owned
that's right. It went
the
full murder
publishing-
mystery. Yeah.
So he owned the publishing company that Anna got a job at. She's doing her job.
Badly. She's texting 90% of the time and she always leaves at like 4:59.
And then Christian buys the publishing company because Jack Hyde is a well-known philanderer. And then he corners Anna and tries to assault her, which I'm not saying assault has anything to do with desire because it doesn't. But she is still yet to meet a man who doesn't love her, who doesn't try it on.
Yeah.
So
I often meet men who don't try it on.
more often than not. The vast majority, almost all men in my life have not tried it on.
There's another plot hole that I actually don't know from what film, but they're in a lift yet again and Christian starts touching her vagina. It's been 7, 8, 9 seconds and he demands that she not finish. I was just thinking, sweetie, it's okay.
She ain't going to.
She's not nearly there.
She's not even.
You're on a lift. She's going, get out of there.
Get out of my pants. Get out.
Which actually brings me to another larger plot hole, which is the lack of general bathing and what I would refer to as genital hygiene given the amount of sex taking place. Discuss.
She doesn't. It's hard because she's a virgin and she has sex. And I just think there's no one to tell her in that moment, you need to pee or you're going to get a UTI.
There's a real lack of UTI.
And she can only go to prescribed doctors who are probably not going to tell her.
This is why we need female friends because we got to go ring, 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 ring. Hey, Jessie, how are you going? It burns when I pee. And then they say, you've got a UTI, sweetie, go to the GP.
Oh, thank God.
Christian isn't going to help you there.
No. Now, there is also that Anna is stalked by one of Christian's former submissives who is traumatised and they make her out to be the villain.
And we've said on this podcast before, bitches be crazy. Bitches be crazy.
For no reason.
Yeah.
For no reason. 50 Shades Freed. So Christian demands Anna take his last name, even though she doesn't want to, then gives her the publishing house as a wedding gift. Jack Hyde planned to kidnap Anna, but that plan got thwarted. We think, oh, thank God. No, he kidnaps Christian's sister. Anna gets pregnant and she says, Christian, I'm pregnant. And he yells. He says, you did it on purpose. How dare you? You're going to love that boy more than you love me.
Oh, that's sick.
Someone gets shot in the leg. Anna's knocked out for 3 days, but it's not clear what the injury is. They end up with 2 kids, a son and a daughter, Teddy and Phoebe. All right. So there's the ridiculous plot lines. Moving on to a toxic relationship. Let us count the ways. Did you want to maybe share some of the reasons you think the relationship is toxic?
I Googled some red flags of a relationship. There are some questions. I just want you to be Anastasia. I'll be Kate. Is that her friend?
Yeah.
Okay, because I know something's not right because you're not coming home anymore and you pretty much cut me off.
And I left a BDSM contract on the table.
Yes, and I've just flicked through that and I've gone, I'm going to give Anastasia a call. Does your partner try to escalate your relationship quickly by moving in together or getting engaged after only being together for a short time?
He wants me to move into a room like a child in his home. He said I could do whatever I want with it.
Oh.
I've met him 3 times.
Okay. Does your partner ever speak badly about your family or your friend Jose? or discourage you from spending time with people you're close to.
Only when he turns up and specifically interrupts or yells that I planned anything that isn't with him.
Okay. Does your partner nitpick things you do, criticize you, or put you down so you feel bad about yourself?
In the form of a contract or not in the form of a contract?
Both.
Because he does do it in both ways.
I made a note here that in one book he calls her a crack whore. You know that? Yeah.
Why?
Because he's not a nice man.
Oh, no.
Now, Anastasia, does your partner ever try to pick fights or get really angry about small things?
Yes, all the time.
Does your partner want to know where you are all the time?
I think so, in that he turns up.
Okay. Does your partner, obviously, check your phone, social media, jealous, obviously. Is your partner overly moody?
I think he's a bad man.
Okay. The problem is that this is a love story to E.L. James.
It is, and that's something she needs to work on.
And she's like, it's just because Anastasia's so hot.
I think what's really interesting is that despite the fact that she is crying, disappearing, being kidnapped, being injured, all of these things, no one minds.
Relationships
Beautiful
are
man.
hard. Where?
Yeah. Wow, look at him. Moving on to another problem. Some may say just as important.
Mm-hmm.
Bad writing, Jess.
Terrible writing.
I'm going to give you a quote.
Mhm.
You tell me what you think. Okay. Her eyes are brown like bourbon but flat.
All right, so what's happened here is that she has written her first draft
Yeah.
and the editor has said what we need in this manuscript is a language feature. Any of them, simile, metaphor, alliteration, anything, just for a little bit of flavour. And she's gone, okay, bourbon but flat. The problem with the analogy is bourbon isn't fizzy. So it's impossible to have flat bourbon.
I think the problem is that E.L. James was maybe having a bourbon and soda, right? And so she's looked at
Yes,
it. She's been drinking a bourbon and soda while she's writing and she's gone, gosh, that's fizzy. Her eyes are like that but not fizzy. And someone needed to just give her that feedback.
So you could go brown like a rock.
Brown like a rock. Oh,
Brown like a
beautiful.
brown Labrador, for example, would be a different simile.
Just as bad, but different.
Can I tell you my favourite simile in the whole book?
Mhm.
I must be the colour of the Communist Manifesto.
Yeah, that's my favourite. Red.
That is just not the right. Often what you try and do with similes is have something vaguely related. But where her brain is going in terms of the Communist Manifesto is very unusual. When I wrote my book and they edit it, they do this thing where they write NQR in certain bits of the book. I was like, wow, what does that mean? It means not quite right. It's just not quite right. Too weird. Too weird. Embarrassing analogy. Doesn't make sense. That's not what you mean. And you look at it and you read it and you go, it's not quite right. This is a classic. Not quite right.
NQR.
We don't have to talk about it. Let's just change it.
He said such loving things today, but how long will he want to do this without wanting to beat the crap out of me? Hard can't relate.
I've said it once, say it again. Red flag like the Communist Manifesto.
My subconscious has reared her somnambulant head. Somnambulant.
Wait, ignore that word. I need to talk about the subconscious for a minute.
Okay.
It is the fundamental misuse of the term subconscious across no less than 1,000 pages.
It's personification.
The subconscious, by definition, you do not know what it's doing. So for her, as a narrator, to constantly be like, my subconscious was doing the salsa. No, sweetie, you don't know what your subconscious is doing.
Yeah.
Because it's subconscious.
But do you know what your inner goddess is doing?
Well, you know what? Maybe.
Because my inner goddess is beside herself, hopping from foot to foot. My inner goddess stirs from her 5-day sulk. But this is my favourite. My inner goddess is doing the marine with some salsa moves. I love your inner goddess. She's crazy.
I hate it. One of my least favourite lines. I can almost hear his sphinx-like smile through the phone. Again, what we have here is a simile. Interesting. Can you envision a sphinx?
Is the sphinx smiling?
Exclusively no. A sphinx never ever smiles.
Okay.
It is a mythical creature, kind of like a lion.
Like a cat.
Kind of like a cat. No smile ever.
Yeah, I think
Which is, again, NQR. Like, I know what you're trying to do here. You're trying to say like. I think she's trying to say like a Cheshire cat. A Cheshire cat.
Yeah.
That's what she was going for. But she went cat, sphinx.
She went sphinx, and she did not go back to change
there's
it.
one sentence that she forgot to edit. I'm all deer / headlights, moth / flame, bird / snake. And he knows exactly what he's doing to me. At some point, I think she meant to choose her analogy. Because if you think about it, a deer in the headlights, a moth to a flame, question mark, bird to a snake. Actually completely different analogies. A deer in a headlight is shocked. A moth to a flame is attached. A bird to a snake is eaten.
Oh, no.
It's the worst. She meant to come back to it.
She meant to, but she was too deep in the sex scenes.
Yes.
She was busy. I'm going to put it out there. She was masturbating. The woman was loving her sex scenes too hard to really nail that writing.
Yeah.
Jessie, the E.L. James Q&A gone wrong. Well, in 2015, E.L. James held a Twitter Q&A. Jessie, I want you to read out these questions. Wait, before I get onto it, Q&As never go well. They never do well because everybody goes, I'll be funny. I'll just try and be funny. And this is what happened to James Corden. Jessie, I want you to read these out.
Okay. How on earth did Anna manage to graduate from university? Okay, this is a great question. In the 21st century without an email address or a laptop? She doesn't have an email address and it's like, no, the uni gave you one.
She's like, my laptop's broken. Well, how are you working on your thesis that you keep talking about, lady?
Second question. Which do you hate more, women or the English language? Great question. Number 3. Is it only okay for Christian to stalk, coerce and threaten and manipulate Anna because he's hot? Or is it also okay because he's rich? I think it's more about being rich.
Yeah, I think so.
Did you see the abusive relationship of Bella and Edward and think, needs more abuse?
I'm designed to kill.
I don't care.
I wanted to kill you. I've never wanted a human's blood so much in my life.
Hashtag Ask E.L. James. After the success of Grey, have you considered yeah, I keep reading the second half of this sentence. Have you considered retelling the story from the perspective of someone who can write? Wonderful. Hashtag Ask E.L. James. So what's your favourite moment in Twilight? When Bella meets Edward or when Stephanie Meyer sent you a cease and desist? Because you copied a book. You copied a book and her book was bad. What's the minimum distance you have to stay away from Stephanie Meyer at all times? Oh, I love it.
She just got trolled. I don't think that anybody was asking genuine questions.
What would you ask though?
How do you see Anastasia's inner goddess?
She made that clear.
Moving on to vag beads. So you were once a young, hungry journalist. You're prepared to do whatever it took to get ahead. So after watching 50 Shades Darker, you tried the vaginal beads.
Vaginal beads? Vag beads.
You tried the vag beads.
How do you say vaginal? Vaginal. Vaginal. You say vaginal.
Vaginal.
Okay.
Basically, they're going to a mask ball, a ball where people are wearing masks. Always happens in sexy things. And Christian pulls out these big silver beads, as you mentioned before. Anna says, I'm not putting them up my butt. And it's like...
Yeah, that's when you know you've been with Christian Grey for too long.
Like, I'm not putting them up my butt. Nobody asked you to. No one said that. They're for your vag. Apparently they massage her vag and make her needy for sex. So you tried them. Jess, tell me, did they make you needy?
I did. Because I was interested in how they could possibly be pleasurable. Because I remember watching this film and just seeing the recurring image of them falling out. Because she had a dress on. I don't think she had any underpants. Which means that a slippery, lubricated vag ball would be falling onto the floor with a plonk. You'd need a cloth to wipe off the mess.
Yeah.
Some hand sanitizer perhaps to reinsert. But it would be in the middle of a conversation. Someone would go, oh, what's that you've dropped?
I think I would drop them on the floor. I'd pick them up. They'd have a bit of hair, a bit of crumb from somebody who's dropped a canapé.
Yeah.
And I'd go, oh, no, and I'd just put it back up there. And then I would get an infection.
Yes. Well, funny you say that. So I decided to try them. I got them from Love Honey. They were a lot heavier, a lot bigger than I thought. Less like an M&M, more like a golf ball, as I often say. And I laid on my bed. I inserted them. We lived together at the time.
We did. I wonder, did Rory know you were doing this
I think
at the time?
He did. I think he did. And I put them on, Stood up, plonk, straight out.
Okay. So you're telling me your pelvic floor's weak?
That's what I thought. I thought, does one need to visit a doctor?
Yeah.
Because Anastasia could keep them in. Easy.
She could.
I couldn't. They fell out. Too heavy. And I didn't realise.
Why do there need to be two of them?
So that they like kind of roll together on themselves. Anyway, then I was like, I think you meant to clench. Which again is why probably would be easy to put them in your butt.
Okay.
Because if they were in the butt, I feel like the sphincter would keep them in. You know what I mean? Whereas the vagina is like, are we open or are we closed? So it was a sensation of when you have a tampon in and it's
getting heavy.
And it's like, and it's your body just saying, we got to change. So it was that, and then I clenched for 10, 15 minutes. I came out, you knew what was going on, something happened, I laughed, plonk, on the floor. I came out of one leg of my pyjama pants on the floor. And I picked them up, and you know what was on them, Claire?
What?
Grum. Some grum.
Probably Caesar hair.
Some
dog hair.
Dog hair, maybe some human hair.
Okay.
And I went, I've had enough, actually.
I'm done now.
I've had enough. This is all a little bit silly. And I didn't use. I think that there are probably nicer, funner things to use. I think a lot of people started using them. I read the reviews. Lots of ladies saying it was great and that it was nice and cool up there.
Yeah, I haven't done a vag ball personally.
Yeah.
I don't feel the need. No judgment.
Apparently mine were for intermediate to advanced.
Okay.
So I went, clearly I needed a beginner. Which might have been a lighter one. It had at the end almost like a plug to pull out, like a metal thing.
I don't like it.
That said sort of 50 Shades on it. Yeah, no, I wouldn't recommend.
But also kind of memorabilia or props from a TV show are never going to be the best quality products. Behind the scenes goss.
Mm-hmm.
In 2015, a writer for Bustle wrote of Jamie Dornan, "The man I'm seeing on 50 Shades' press tour is a man filled with regrets. And after watching a few interviews, that's how I would also describe him. He's awkward and uncomfortable, and his eyes say, 'Please, I'm sorry, but think of the life I can now give my children.'"
Lots of money.
Lots of money. He said at the time some of the Red Room stuff was uncomfortable. There were times when Dakota was not wearing much, and I had to do stuff to her that I'd never choose to do to a woman.
Interesting.
That's lovely, Jamie.
Because we got a shot of his pubes.
We did. We got, top of dick. It wasn't just pubes.
We would have shared this with our listeners.
But
what do we call the top of a dick? We call it a dick root, don't we? The root of a penis. A dick root.
It is. It looks like a root.
It looks like the root of a tree. And we got a little glimpse of that.
Yeah.
We also got a shot of him from above doing a thrust, but like his bottom is kind of clenching and going in and out. And I just thought that would have been a little bit uncomfortable.
And exposing.
Definitely sexier killing people on the floor.
But one thing I respect about Jamie Dornan is that he has never said he regrets making the films. He doesn't
gotta own it.
Full Robert Pattinson, which I respect because he says, "Every move I have made in my career, I've only been able to do because of these films. Any well-received, more independent stuff I've done the last 5 or 6 years, they're only paying for those films to be made off my name because I'm in a franchise that made $1.4 billion. That's how it works. It's all part of it. It's given me so much, so of course I don't regret it." Very self-aware, Jamie.
Yeah, I like that.
The better gossip is actually what Dakota Johnson has said about E.L. James being on the set. Because she said she had a lot of creative control all day, every day, and she just demanded that certain things happen. There were parts of the books that just wouldn't work in a movie, like the inner monologue, which was at times incredibly cheesy.
Okay, so E.L. James is obsessed with the inner goddess.
Inner goddess and the
like,
subconscious.
Yeah.
And so Dakota Johnson said it wouldn't work to say out loud, but it was always a battle. Always. There were a lot of different...
Sorry, it didn't work in print either.
No. Sorry.
There wasn't a context in which it worked.
No.
But yes, it especially wouldn't work being said out loud in the
Great
film.
point, Dakota.
Yeah.
There were a lot of different disagreements. I haven't been able to talk about this truthfully ever because you want to promote a movie the right way, and I'm proud of what we made ultimately and everything turns out the way it's supposed to, but it was tricky. We do the takes of the movie that Erica, that's E.L. James, wanted to make, and then we would do the takes of the movie that we wanted to make.
Oh, what I would do to see E.L. James's movie.
It'd just be her pashing Jamie Dornan.
E.L. James?
Yeah.
Yeah.
She'd be like, "Pash me." And he'd be like, okay. She said, "If I had known at the time that's what it was going to be like, I don't think anyone would have done it. It would have been like, oh, this is psychotic."
The worst scene is in the first film when they are about to go to his family's house for dinner. She's in a pink dress. They have music on and he
Yeah.
starts dancing with her and I'm like, okay, cheesy,
whatever. People
and
always
twirls.
dance in movies, yeah.
For 15 seconds, her inner goddess comes out and she does this dance. I know people can't see, but it's this like...
We'll post it. We should
Can we post it?
We should redo
We should
it.
redo it. We should learn it, make it a TikTok trend because Claire and I are trying to get big on TikTok. It is the
She does,
single...
it's like a cha-cha moment alone.
And he looks at her lovingly and I'm like, no, she has no rhythm.
It's so embarrassing. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll be posting that. We'll be posting that. Dakota Johnson has bitched about E.L. James more and said, there are things I cannot say because I don't want to hurt anyone's career. I don't want to damage anyone's reputation. Erica is a very nice woman. She was always kind to me. I'm grateful she wanted me to be in those movies. Okay, so E.L. James was horny on set and Dakota Johnson found it difficult. That's the behind-the-scenes gossip.
100%.
Jessie, it's time for charges and sentences. Charge: making people think domestic violence is hot. Sentence:
Yep.
make another crime hot. Because what it is that
Well, the fall made murder hot.
exactly. So my thing
For
is,
people who don't know what the fall is,
you need to watch it. BBC, it's
murder mystery thing, and Jamie,
one of the greatest shows of all time.
Jamie Dornan is, I don't know his name.
He's
it's not
a
important.
predator.
He's a predator and he goes through and he kills women. It's very, very bad. But he's very hot doing it. He's got a very hot accent.
He's a family man.
Yeah, you can see why watching that you'd go, he could be Christian Grey. But then he had no executive presence. So it didn't work with him being CEO of Greyhound Enterprises or whatever it was. I was thinking of the crime I find the least hot.
What is
Right?
it?
You know what it is?
What?
It's theft.
Okay, well. Okay.
It's a really embarrassing crime.
It's so shush. Because I had make another crime hot. What's the least hot crime? You say theft, I say robbery.
It's the creeping. It's the tiptoeing.
It's not confident.
No.
But because E.L. James can only write fan fiction, it has to be based on something. And the only robber I can think of is Hamburglar.
Okay.
So it has to be Hamburglar fan fiction.
I'm sure there's
Sexy.
films about like a film called The Heist
No.
or something. Okay.
Jessie, I'm going to show you a photo and you tell me if you think this character can be made sexy.
Okay. Why does he only have one front tooth? Yes. You know what he looks like? He looks like Anastasia at the mask ball. With a mask on.
He does. Okay, Jessie, to help E.L. James, I've just written the shortest scene.
All right.
The shortest Hamburglar fan fiction.
Okay. Do you ever think about if people listen to parts of this podcast in that context? Because you're about to read that out and someone's in their kitchen chopping something up and they've got the podcast on speaker and their partner's just walked into the room with no context. Read.
He fingered the key. His hands still oily from his burger. He knew he could get it open, so long as he could push hard into the centre of the lock to budge the door's inner goddess. E.L. stopped with the inner goddess. One big thrust and it sprung open. He wondered if his black and white ensemble was too obvious and might give him away to passers-by.
Why burglars dress as burglars. It's a giveaway.
Be more casual. But there was no time.
Oh.
He sauntered in through the hallway. They're always sauntering.
Yeah.
Looking for one thing and one thing only. That's when his eyes widened. It was Ronald. Naked on the couch, covered in fries. Except as he looked closer, he realised one of the long, thin shapes was not a chip. It wasn't a chip, Jessie.
Did it spring from his trousers?
Sprung freely.
It sprung freely.
It was Ronald's dick. And suddenly, the Hamburglar was very, very hungry. But not for food. Jessie, do you think that that's nice starting point for E.L. James?
Yes.
I used some of her favourite words, such as sauntered and inner goddess.
And I liked the choice of crime.
Okay.
Because a crime,
It's
like,
not
I don't
sexy.
agree with tax evasion.
No.
I don't agree with jaywalking, speeding. Like, it's not particularly sexy, but there is something very the ick about robbing.
Yeah.
Look, my sentence was more straightforward. It's regarding the manuscript and its need for editing.
Okay.
So what I think it needs is for an editor to take it at face value, and put in a few NQRs.
Just
a few
a
not
few.
quite right.
Do you mean a few per paragraph?
Well, this is the thing. I think she'd have to rewrite the manuscript.
Yes.
Everything. Description of Anna. There was no backstory to the wonky fringe. And it's hard because they're not going to tell you what's not quite right, but you've just got to fix it
You've gotta work
intuitively.
out. I think she'd actually replace NQR with a different type of NQR.
Yeah, exactly. I was trying to think, it was brown like flat bourbon. Like she'll just say something.
Yeah,
It's like,
it was brown like poo he had done that morning.
no, NQR.
Still NQR, darling.
Look, thank you so much for joining us on this episode of Cancelled. As aforementioned, we are trying to make TikTok happen. So we're on TikTok as The Twins Thoughts.
We're also on Instagram.
We're on Instagram at The Twins Thoughts. Please let us know what you think. If you've got suggestions, we get the best suggestions from you guys. This was definitely a listener suggestion,
definitely.
50 Shades. The producer of Cancelled is Emma Gillespie, and the head of podcast at Mamamia is Eliza Ratliff. And we will talk to you next week.
Bye.
Bye. If you love the show, the best thing you can do is become a Mamamia subscriber. Mamamia subscribers get access to every podcast, exclusive videos, and all the great articles on Mamamia. Please see the link in our show notes.